Before we start the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain why. First of all, it's free, so you can get it anywhere, anytime, costs no money. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, whatever device you choose. As well as that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast too with no minimum listenership. That means a nobody podcast like mine can make money off of sponsorships. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you haven't tried Anchor or you want to start a podcast and haven't tried it yet, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, guys? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. This is episode 18. We're getting up there in episodes, folks. I guess today we've got a lot to talk about. Last night, Jack Hermansson squared off against Marvin Vettori in the main event. That was a top contender bout. He was number 4 going up against number 12 Marvin Vettori. The story going up to that main event was kind of crazy to begin with. It was everybody knew it was originally supposed to be Darren Till going up against Jack Hermansson, who was, I believe, number 2 ranked or number 3 ranked. Darren Till was. Unfortunately, I believe 3 weeks out, Darren Till got injured, had to pull out. Kevin Holland stepped up to give himself a shot because he's been doing incredible this year. He's already got 4 wins in 2020 alone, I believe, just coming back from the pandemic. So there's that. He's shown that he's ready to face up against top contenders. Unfortunately, though, he as well had to pull out of his fight with Jack Hermansson due to, I believe, a COVID-19 positive test. I could be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive I'm right about that. So it was about a week ago that happened. So Marvin Vettori decided, fuck it. This is a week before I have to fight my actual fight anyway. I'm going to step up, get a main event shot. It'll be I think his first main event in the UFC, and it'll get him a chance. If he beats Jack Hermansson, he'll get a top 5 contender spot. Cause like I said, Jack Hermansson is number 4. So obviously, with the main event just switching names and switching hands several times, the event was crazy enough. Everything else was going just as planned. Unfortunately, we had a couple more bouts that actually had to be pulled off. They had to be pulled off the card. I believe one of the main card bouts, Montana De La Rosa versus Talia Santos, had to pull out. And another one that I was actually really excited about, Movsar Evelev versus Nate Landwehr, they had to pull out. I think due to a COVID-19 test. And another fight that I was kind of excited about was Jimmy Flick versus Cody Durden, but unfortunately, Durden had to pull out non-medical related issue, non-COVID related issue, sorry. But he had to pull out. So he's rescheduled for Thompson versus Neal. But this was all yesterday as the fights were going on. This was after the weigh-ins, I believe. Just out of the blue, 3 fights, all in one sweep. Just bomb, gone. So, unfortunately, we had to deal with that. And we lost those 3 fights, so we were down to 8 fights. But the show must go on. I will admit I had to catch up on all the prelims today because I fell asleep during the prelims because it was supposed to start at 7. That was supposed to be when Jean Volante was supposed to start his fight, and that's fine, right? It was supposed to start at 7, 15 minutes in, so 7:15. The fights usually start if the card doesn't have any cancellations or anything like that. So that happened. And we had to wait. It was because they have to fill airtime, right? So we had to wait, And we were waiting for like a good 30, 40 minutes just for the first fight to start, and then that fight would end, and then we'd have to wait another like 20, 30 minutes for the next fight to start, only for 3 fights on the prelims, which isn't too bad. But like I said, they had airtime to fill, so there was a lot of just waiting around. If you wanted to make a sandwich or you were high as fuck and wanted to grab munchies in between fights, you had more than enough time to do so. If you were a little late making supper before the prelims started, you had plenty of time to make your dinner before the prelims started, honestly. So, yeah, it was just quite crazy in terms of how the card went and how it started, but it didn't look like a good card on paper, I'll be honest. And I gotta say, if you are one of those people that thought that, you missed out if you decided not to watch this card, because of it, because of the name brand not being too big and the fact that the main event wasn't too big of a name. I think like other than Jack Hermansson being the biggest name on the card, the other biggest name on the card was fucking Ovince St. Preux in the co-main event. So it wasn't, on paper, it didn't look any good. But the card more than delivered. Like I said, there was a lot of waiting around in the prelims because they had airtime to fill. Unfortunately, that happens with these types of things because of the cancellations and such. But when the fights did happen, we had some great fights, starting off with Jake Collier versus Jean Volante. This was a very fun fight to watch. Typical slow-paced heavyweight fight, but it wasn't boring. No guys leaning against each other. Not much takedown attempts, nothing like that. They were willing to stand and bang. They were just throwing strikes. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Jake Collier was getting the better of the striking, though. At the end of the first round, he kind of dropped, or not dropped, but hurt Jean Volante. Hit him with a right hand that kind of had him stumbling back a bit, and it clearly hurt him. And he had him backed up against the cage, hitting him with some nice shots, so he won that first round. Jean Volante rallied back in the second round, was hitting Jake Collier with some good shots, but Jake Collier started rallying back halfway through that round, was getting the better of the striking exchanges, was controlling the octagon more, was hitting him harder, and clearly hurting Jean Volante, so he won that round. And then the last round, both guys were gassed, but yet again, Jake Collier was getting the better of the strikes, and it was a clear winner for that round. But that's not to say it wasn't back and forth between the two, because it was like Jake Collier would throw a couple, and then Jean Volante would throw one or two that are hard, and it would just be back and forth between the guys, and they were still in it. Both guys showed that they had incredible chins. They were able to withstand each other's punches. And that being said, Jake Collier gets a 30-27 unanimous decision win, and he becomes, I believe, the third fighter in UFC history, I believe, to fight in 3 different weight classes, or not third fighter, but something like that. Because he was originally a middleweight, then he went to light heavyweight, didn't work out for him, and then he made his heavyweight debut last night, and it went well for him, and it was a great fight. Nothing to really go home and tell your friends about, but it was a fun heavyweight fight nonetheless. No laying and praying, no hugging, nothing like that. It was just both guys throwing strikes at each other, trying to fucking knock each other's heads off. It was pretty fucking great. And that kind of hyped everyone up for the next bout, which was a featherweight bout between Ilia Tapira versus Damon Jackson. And this was a very fun bout. Ilia Tapira is a young guy, 7-0, I believe. Damon Jackson's a veteran in the sport, and he was the taller guy, so he had the advantage of using his range. But Ilia Tapira clearly had a game plan coming into this, and his game plan was very fucking smart, and he executed it perfectly. His game plan was just keep in the pocket, don't allow him to get his distance, and rip the body. And then as you're ripping the body, it sets you up for a nice headshot, a nice overhand. And he just kept hitting that the whole fight. It only went 1 round, but he just kept doing that for the entirety of the fight. He would not let Damon Jackson get his distance. He just kept that distance closed, was just hitting him with some nice body shots, just ripping the body constantly. And it eventually just wore down on Damon Jackson. And later in the first round, Ilia Tapira has him up against the fence. He's hitting him with some nice body shots, backing him up, hits him with a couple body shots, and then hits him with a nice overhand that just drops him right behind, right on the button, right kind of behind the ear, on the ear kind of thing. and it just bam, like drops him, just makes him fall like a sack of potatoes. And it was a really fun fight to watch. Great knockout by Ilia Tapira. I can't wait to see what this guy does next. It was a great show out by him. He had this game plan. It was perfect. He did what he had to do with this game plan, and he executed it perfectly. So I'm happy for him, and I can't wait to see how he does in the UFC, because that was a fun fucking show out. Great performance by him. Easy. That being said, it brings us into the headliner of the prelims, which was former flyweight Louis Samoka up against Jose Quinones. Can't say that fast. I have to think about it. But it's Jose Quinones. Sorry, fuck. And he's a very decorated bantamweight, somewhat of a veteran in this UFC bantamweight division. Louis Samoka, obviously a veteran. He's been in the UFC since 2014. This is his second stint with the UFC. He was formerly a flyweight. Was top contender at the flyweight division, just couldn't break that top 3 spot, that top 2 spot, couldn't make it to a title fight, but he was in the top 10, top 5 all the time. He moved up to bantamweight, I believe, recently. This isn't his first fight at bantamweight, and that being said, going into this fight, he was the favorite, and most likely so because he's more of the veteran going into this, but Quinones is a natural bantamweight, so it was a fun fight to see, and both guys brought it. Quinones was piecing him up in the first round. Louis Samoka was hitting him with some good shots, but Quinones was controlling the pace, just controlling the center of the octagon, piecing Samoka up with some nice shots, hurting Samoka with some nice shots, busted him up, had him, I believe, had him cut up above his eye, and all like the one side of his face was just bloody, and it was just a great show up by Quinones, but Louis Samoka and the funny part was Jose Quinones was actually going for takedowns as well and doing an incredible job scrambling with Louis Samoka, who's known for his knockout power, but also his submission prowess. He's a great ground submission artist. And he was just getting out-grappled by Jose Quinones and just getting pieced up in the first round by Quinones. Going into the second round, though, Louis Samoka just kind of rallied back and just decided he's got this game plan, because for the most part, Louis Samoka wasn't attempting any takedowns. It was Quinones that was doing that. It was mostly a striking affair. So his corner, Louis Samoka's corner, said something very smart to him, saying he's not expecting a fucking ground fight. He's expecting a striking exchange from you. So, keep drawing him into those striking exchanges and throwing a takedown, confuse him. And so he did. He started getting pieced up again, led him into some striking exchanges, and then got a takedown against the fence because he started backing up Quinones. And as soon as he got Quinones down, he scrambled into top mount and started ground and pounding, going for submissions, ground and pounding, going for submissions, constantly scrambling as Quinones was trying to get out of position. And Quinones was doing a great job trying to get out of position. So that's... it's not easy to get out of position when somebody's got their legs wrapped around your waist and they're using all their weight on top of you and they're just raining down punches. So that's not easy, but he was doing a good job scrambling and everything. It was just Louis Samoka was on the ball, scrambling with him, just denying those scrambles and just constantly laying down the punishment. And Quinones had no answer for it. And Louis Samoka ended up winning in the second round via TKO because Quinones had no answer for what Louis Samoka was offering him on the ground. It was a good show out by Louis Samoka. Good adjustment. Great corner work, honestly. And it was just a fun fight. Great prelims. Even though we had to wait for most of the fights, that was the annoying part. It was a great show out by all three fights on the prelims. It was great. Definitely one of those things that you shouldn't have missed. But hey, if you missed it, you missed it. No big deal. That being said, I did say we have some MMA news before we get into some other things. And I guess we'll start with the big one. The big one seeming to be that Yoel Romero, the guy who fought Izzy recently in March last year, he's been an absolute monster in the middleweight division for years. he was cut from the UFC recently. He had 3 fights left on his contract, so this wasn't Yoel Romero getting a lawyer to cut him for him. He didn't quit. Dana cut him. Obviously, probably gave him some financial, you know, whatever the word for it is. I can't even think of the word right now, so just pardon me. But I'm sure that Dana paid him out the rest of his contract, whatever. But yeah, no, Yoel Romero was cut from the UFC. Dana explained that this is just one of the many, about 60 cuts that they're planning to do by the end of the year because I guess obviously we covered the Contender Series earlier this year, and with pretty much every episode there was at least 2 contract winners, 3 contract winners maybe, and that's a lot to give out. That's just inflating your roster even more with guys that you think might have a shot. And Dana did say back in August when the first half of the Contender Series ended that he said he was planning on making cuts because he said his roster was inflated. He needed to make some cuts to kind of wane it down a bit, open up spots for newer fighters in the Contender Series guys. And he had a very good point about Yoel Romero. The guy's a monster. He's a natural anomaly. It's fucking crazy, but he's lost 4 out of his 5 fights in the UFC. He's 44 years old. He looks good, but who's to say that just at one day he just starts becoming chinny? He starts getting knocked out. He's not the same monster he used to be. And now the UFC's paying for Yoel to fight when he's not even worth it. And they're already doing that with guys like BJ Penn. I mean, thankfully, I'm pretty sure BJ Penn's never going to fight again, but you know what I mean. So this makes sense to me, but it does come as a surprise because Yoel Romero is such a big name in the UFC, considering who he's fought, the wars he's had with Whitaker, the people he's decimated. Obviously, one of his more infamous things was his fight with Izzy, and for older fans, obviously, the stool gate against Tim Kennedy, where he just sat on the stool like a fucking idiot for longer than he should have. But that's besides the point. He's a big name in the UFC, and they just out and cut it. They just cut him. So that shows that nobody is safe from these cuts. Dana did say that by the end of the year, there's supposed to be a total of 60 cuts coming to the roster to open up some spots. So this is just apparently the start of several serious cuts that he's planning to make, he says. So that's big. That's some big news just in itself. Anyway, that brings us to the next topic. Dominic Cruz is making his return. Everybody knows Dominic Cruz as the longtime reigning bantamweight champion. Lost his title to Cody Garbrandt in a very dominant fight by Cody Garbrandt. Got injured, was sidelined for like a good while, probably 3 years, probably 2 years. Anyway, he came back against Cejudo, lost to Cejudo in a controversial stoppage. He believes it was controversial. I don't really see anything wrong with the stoppage. He's coming back again. He's making another return to the octagon, something I didn't think. I thought he would have retired after the Cejudo fight because he's got a good gig as a desk side analyst and a commentator. Like, he's a color commentator for the UFC. He's a very bright individual, so he's an analyst as well. I just didn't see him coming back, but he's making a return in March against Casey Kenny, so that's going to be exciting because Casey Kenny's a guy who's got great takedown defense, but he's known to love and stand and bang, great knockout power. Dom, obviously, we know Dom for his dynamic striking, his crazy footwork. The fact that he's unpredictable the way he fights. He'll be striking in these wacky, unpredictable ways where you can't quite defend, and then he'll throw in a takedown, and his shoot will come from so far out, but in such a weird way that you didn't expect it, so you don't know how to defend it at the time, or you're not ready to. And that's definitely going to be a fight that I'm excited for. But that's coming in March. I don't think they've announced the headliner for the March pay-per-view yet. I haven't seen anything. That being said, I believe I've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's been confirmed. They put pen to paper and everything. Connor's coming back January 23rd against Dustin Poirier. It's their rematch from when they fought at featherweight. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I talked about this on the podcast before. That brings me to other MMA news, though, where female boxer and, well, female boxing GOAT Clarissa Shields has finally left the boxing world and has transitioned to MMA and has signed with PFL, Professional Fighters League, which has a different spin on the MMA format. As the UFC and other promotions go, it's not a seasonal basis. They just go fight by fight. If this guy's like 13-2 in his last fucking I don't know, 15 fights, then he gets a title shot or something. Like, they do that. But PFL goes by like a professional sports season type thing, where they have a regular season where you can get a couple wins, and then they have a playoffs where the top, I believe, like 8 in each division go up against each other, and then every couple events they have the fights for the tournament, kind of similar to the Grand Prix that Bellator is having. And at the end of it, the person becomes the champion of that season and $1 million winner in each division. So they've got a unique spin to it. It's a unique way to go into MMA, but I'm excited for Clarissa Shields. She's been releasing some video footage recently. She's actually gone to critically acclaimed, and I mean recently, very critically panned pro MMA gym, Jackson Wink MMA, obviously the longtime home of John Jones. She's going there. She's released some footage. She's got some incredible stand-up. Not only is her, like, obviously, her boxing is incredible. She's known as one of the greatest female boxers of this generation right now, but her kicking game seems to be pretty on point. Like, it's quick. They look powerful, and she looks like the form looks great, the way that she's throwing these kicks. So, I don't know. It's exciting to see where she's gonna go when it comes to this, but I can't wait to see who she fights first, because that's definitely quite an interesting transition, considering she's just strictly a boxer, but she's showing incredible all-around stand-up. The real question is, how good is her takedown defense? Because obviously her wrestling and her ground game is garbage. She'd get submitted in a heartbeat, because that's not her natural area. But you could still be a stand-up fighter in MMA as long as you have good takedown defense. You're good at your scrambles, and you're good at keeping your balance and pushing away so you can keep it standing. So, I mean, I'm interested to see how well she does in that aspect. So, that's definitely a big signing for PFL. Big news for boxing and MMA. I can't wait to see where that goes, honestly. She's been talking about making a transition for a while. She had a bit of a beef with Amanda Nunes, I believe. So this might be leading up to that type of point. If she does incredible in MMA, then she might get a contract by the UFC, and then we might see her against Nunes. But that being said, she needs to start her career first. She needs to round up her game. So we'll see how she stands out. We'll see how she stands out in that world, where she needs to learn a little bit more aspects than just throwing hands and guarding stand up. The last piece of news that I'm going to be talking about today, well, actually, one little one before we get into that. Bella Mir, Frank Mir's daughter, everybody knows Frank Mir. He's probably one of the most renowned submission grapplers in the UFC, one of the greatest heavyweight submission grapplers. He was the former UFC heavyweight champion, big rival of Brock Lesnar. No, Brock Lesnar. Fuck me, man. What's wrong with me? Brock Lesnar. He was the big rival of Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar made the switch from pro wrestling to MMA. And his daughter had made her MMA debut earlier this year, and I believe she actually won via submission. That being said, she has already booked her second pro fight against Elma Cesapades at Icon Fighting Force 4. So that's coming this coming week, actually. So the day before UFC 256, that is happening. So pretty exciting to see how she fares in her second fight. Might be a little bit of a step up in challenge. I don't know much about her opponent, but if she's anything like her dad, then it's going to be a walk in the park until she gets into the big leagues, like the big leagues. But anyway, the big news I want to talk about is featherweight contender Yair Rodriguez has been suspended for 6 months. And nobody knows why other than the fact that he has failed to file locations for any random testing that has happened. He has not been found by any random testers for months. So we don't know if he's fleeing because he doesn't want to piss hot for something or if there's something way more going on. But the only thing that we know right now is that he's officially been suspended by USADA for failing to show up to tests or failing to be there at tests. So obviously failing to file a location with USADA. And they haven't gotten word from him in a long time, apparently. So he's been suspended for 6 months. That puts a little bit of his career on the way. He was on a fast track to a title shot, but after things happened, there wasn't much talk of what he was doing or how, like, who he was fighting. You know, there wasn't really much talk for what was next in his career. Some people thought he was going to be next for Volkanovski, but then, like, we didn't hear much from him for a while. So this is pretty big news considering, because like I said, we haven't heard from Yair in a while. There was a lot of speculation going out saying he might be testing positive for something big, or, you know, he could have gotten in some trouble with the law or something. I don't know. We don't specifically know exactly, but all we know is he is suspended for 6 months. So that's gonna put half a year of his career on the line. So it's pretty unfortunate for him, but hopefully we'll find out more as more news breaks about this. Honestly, but we'll see. Honestly, we'll just see when all of the stuff comes out. One more thing to talk about before we get into the second half, into the main card of the fight night. First things first. So first things first here. We got the fact that apparently Khabib Nurmagomedov is not in his retirement. He's trying to make MMA an Olympic sport. That's pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to go through because it's a pretty violent sport. I mean, boxing's pretty violent and it's an Olympic sport, but, you know, they might have to alter the rule set to make it an Olympic sport, but that's pretty cool that if that goes through, we might see MMA as an upcoming Olympic sport. We may see a lot more people in the Olympics now. But that was only the first bit of news. I just thought that was cool. I wanted to bring that up. The second bit of news is non-MMA related. This Wednesday, I've got a big guest on the mini series. So last week, or not last week, but last mini series, I got voice actor, character actor, and apparently OnlyFans model Joe Filipponi on the show to just talk about his career, things he's done, his OnlyFans, stuff like that. Well, I have outdone myself yet again this time by a large margin. I have gotten the original voice actor for goddamn Sergeant Frank Woods from Call of Duty Black Ops, and we talked for like a good 20 minutes or so. He was a really nice guy to talk to. It was a great conversation. I kind of fanboyed a little bit. I drew blank several times, so that was a little embarrassing on my part, but honestly, he was a nice guy, very easy to talk to, very easy to get in touch with, very willing to do stuff with fans. So honestly, he's just an all-around nice guy. And when you guys listen, you'll understand when I say he is truly Frank Woods. He didn't have to make really any alterations to the character at all. He is Frank Woods, and you'll find that out on Wednesday. So I'm really excited to bring that one to you guys. Anyway, I'm done rambling on now. I've been excited enough for this interview. It'll be coming out Wednesday. Make sure to check that out. It'll be on all platforms, Spotify and all that when it comes out Wednesday. Should be Wednesday morning when that happens. I'm going to try to get the audio out and ready to publish by Tuesday night. So then Wednesday morning it finally publishes. You guys will be able to listen to that going to work or at work. You guys get to get some insight in the gaming industry and how it was working with the Call of Duty developers and stuff. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited for this one. Anyway, let's get into the Fight Night card now. Honestly, I was surprised with how great the Fight Night card ended up. Obviously, there was one fight that wasn't exciting to me because it was a very one-sided fight. But that being said, the rest of the fights on the main card were incredible, and I'm excited to talk about them with you guys. So let's get into that shit. All right, so we're going to get into the main card now. And if you thought the prelims were exciting, despite it only being 3 fights, I swear to God, if they make me wait for fights like that ever again, I'm just going to say, fuck the prelims, I'll watch them in the morning. But anyway, the prelims were pretty great, but the main card was even better. And I'll tell you why. So, this was supposed to originally be a prelim bout, I believe, but obviously with the cancellations and such, they had to move it up to the main card. A couple of these fights that I'm looking at here that I was watching last night were supposed to be on the prelims, but like I said, with the cancellations, they had to make some adjustments to kind of mark up the runtime. And in order to do that, obviously, the prelims suffered a bit. But anyway, starting the main card was a lightweight bout between Jordan Leavitt, who is a up-and-coming prospect, a dangerous guy, going up against veteran Matt Wyman. And I thought, I actually saw Jordan Leavitt winning this, but I didn't think he was going to win in the way he did. I thought it was going to be either a TKO in the late rounds or a win by decision or something like that. Holy fuck. We got a great KO to start off the card. So it's not even like a minute into the fight, and they start off with a takedown attempt where they clinch in the middle, and Jordan Leavitt's kind of pushing Matt Wyman back to the fence. Matt Wyman wraps his legs around Jordan Leavitt and, tries to use his weight to get him to the ground. Jordan Leavitt puts his arm kind of on Matt Wyman's neck and pushes his head to the side and just readies a big old fucking slam. And the moment that the slam hits, you can see it's a legal slam, so it was legal, it was perfect. When his head hits the ground, like Wyman's head hits the ground behind the ear slightly hard. And immediately when it connects, you see it. His eyes squint. You can see the little bit of eye that you can see through the squint is going cross-eyed. His arms are up in the air stiff. He went out immediately. 22 fucking seconds into the first round, Jordan Leavitt comes in, opening up the main card with this massive slam KO of a fucking Matt Wyman. Jesus H. Christ. That being said, though, we needed a little bit of a break from the hype. So we got Roman Dolidze versus John Allen. And it was a pretty hard fought fight by both guys, but it was clearly Roman Dolidze's night from the start to the finish. Roman Dolidze controlled most of the standing up, and then when it got to the ground, even though John Allen was dangerous from the ground, there was a couple times where he threatened submissions. Roman Dolidze remained that top position, was very dominant. He was taking John Allen down at will, and I don't know if it was because John Allen's not good at defending takedowns or if he was just more than willing to go down to the ground hoping he'd get a submission, but he was allowing those takedowns like they were nothing. And they were, like I said, it was a hard-fought fight. In my opinion, it was 30-27 Roman Dolidze. I could see why it was 29-28 Roman Dolidze, but the thing I want to talk about, and I talked about this in one of the podcasts a while back, I don't know who the judge was that did this time, Last time I singled out, in particular, Chris Lee, who voted for Felder in the Rafael dos Santos match, where Rafael dos Santos clearly fucking dominated Felder, despite Felder putting up a good fight. So, ready for this? The reading of the scorecards went as followed. The first judge scores this contest 29-28 for Dolidze. Okay, understandable. The second judge scores this contest 30-27 John Allen. Like, what the fuck? How'd you get 30-27 out of that? And then the final judge... Or no, sorry. It was 29-28 John Allen, and then 30-27 Dolidze, 29-28 Dolidze. I don't know how the fuck you saw 29-28 for John Allen when that was clearly Dolidze's fight, but a lot of people were really upset with that scoring. Really upset with that scoring. Recently in Vegas, there's been some bullshit scoring with the judges. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't know who they're hiring. I don't know if the judges are on some shit when they are working or whatever, but it makes me think, what the fuck is going on with the judges and who the fuck are they hiring? Because I don't know how you saw that as John Allen's fight. The other two judges that scored at 30-27 and 29-28, that's understandable, because you could argue that John Allen maybe have won one round, but anyone who was watching, any expert watching, knew that that was Dolidze's fight. He did everything he had to do to win that fight. And I saw on Twitter last night when that fucking decision was read out, everyone was like, why the fuck was it a split decision? Who the fuck is this judge that thinks that fucking John Allen won? Like, it was the most retarded shit I have ever seen. But it was the only boring fight on the card. Thankfully, it was the only retarded decision on the card. I mean, thankfully, the right guy won. It should have been a unanimous decision. Anyway, these things happen in MMA, unfortunately. But, you know, when these things happen, you need to do an investigation and see who the fucking judge was that scored it that. Because you need to be piss testing these dudes, man. You can't be allowing just drunk dudes off the street to score your fucking fights, because that's what it seems like they're getting nowadays. Anyway, that brings us into the third fight of the main card. We're blazing through these because a lot of these is going to be leading up to the main event, and I'm going to be talking about the UFC 256 card, which is next week. But so all of this is going to be leading up to the main event, which was actually fight of the night, and you'll see why, or you'll hear why it won fight of the night in a bit. But Gabriel Benitez versus Justin James. This was a great fight because both guys brought it. Justin James was hitting Gabriel Benitez with some heavy shots, backing him up, but Gabriel Benitez was okay with doing the back punching every now and then, pushing Justin James back, hitting him with some good punches, and catching him while he's coming in, trying to close the distance, hitting him with some knees. That led up to the finish. It was going into the end of the first round. Gabriel Benitez hits him with a nice uppercut combo, and then hits him with a knee as Justin James tries to come in to throw his own shots. And the knee hits him square in like the sternum, like in the chest, and knocks him down immediately. So Gabriel Benitez just swarms him with punches as he knocks, as he's on the ground. And you could see that Justin James was done the moment that knee landed. That shit, when knees land there, I've never been hit directly there by a knee. You know, I've been hit in the stomach, stuff like that, but I've never been hit directly in the chest like that. But I can almost imagine that takes the wind out of you, and that's gotta fucking hurt. Like, that's gotta do a lot of damage. They said on the broadcast last night, like, that a knee like that could break the sternum and, you know, finish someone. So it was a great finish by Gabriel Benitez. Holy shit. Was it a great fight by both guys? But that finish was just brutal. The knee to the chest that just immediately dropped him, and he did not hold back. He did not hesitate. He jumped right on Justin James and finished him. And oh my God, good finish by Gabriel Benitez. I cannot wait to see that guy fight another fucking day. Honestly, that was a great show out by him. He won performance of the night just as Jordan Leavitt did. But we still have one more finish on the card to talk about, and that was the co-main event, Ovince St. Preux versus Jamal Hill. So this was a awesome fight because Jamal Hill was the underdog, and oh no, he was the favorite, and Ovince St. Preux was the underdog. But everybody on Twitter thought that Ovince St. Preux was going to win this fight, and wah wah, they were wrong. Ovince St. Preux did a good job. He did a good job using his reach. He used the distance very well and kept Jamal Hill at bay. But Jamal Hill seemed really calm and just confident in himself, and he adjusted after he was being kept at bay for a little bit. He adjusted and started finding unique ways to close the distance. He was using his kicks very well, landing these leg kicks and these body kicks and just kind of mixing it all up, and was hitting St. Preux with some nice shots, some really nice shots, backing him up against the cage, just hitting him with some nice flurries, just hurting him. And Ovince St. Preux had taken him down, I believe, once. But Jamal Hill was doing a great job on the ground and got right back up once he got taken down. And Ovince St. Preux didn't really try to go for takedowns much after that. He was very happy standing up, and it led into the second round where Ovince St. Preux was doing a good job. He was standing and banging with Jamal Hill, was just hitting him with some nice shots, but Jamal Hill was just hitting him with some flurries. He was quicker, was hitting the heavier shots, and he hurt Ovince St. Preux. He dropped Ovince St. Preux, and Ovince St. Preux got back up. He was clearly hurt, backed him up against the cage, started hitting Ovince St. Preux. Ovince St. Preux was trying to back away, trying to circle away from the cage, but he couldn't. Jamal Hill was doing a great job with just keeping that distance and just closing off the cage to him, just constantly closing off that escape. And at first, Jamal Hill was getting sloppy, but when he noticed that sloppy wasn't the way to go, he just started picking his shots and started closing off the escape and just really hitting him with some heavy shots. And it got to the point where, like, St. Preux didn't get dropped, but he couldn't defend. It was to the point where Jamal Hill was just hitting him over and over and over again. St. Preux just wiggling and wiggling, trying to protect himself, but you know, every now and then throwing a punch here and there that would never hit, and it was clear that he wasn't in it. So the ref stepped in and stopped the fight. But my God, Jamal Hill just went in and ate Ovince St. Preux's soul, and it was an incredible show up by him. But Ovince St. Preux showed his heart. He wanted to stay in there, wasn't dropping, wasn't letting himself give up. He just was trying to withstand the storm, man, but he just couldn't. He couldn't find a way out, and the ref just felt he couldn't take any more damage, which, honestly, good on the ref for trying to save Ovince St. Preux. Good win for Jamal Hill, though. Honestly, great win for Jamal Hill. I can see him being in the top 15 because another big important thing about this fight was that Ovince St. Preux was ranked 15 and Jamal Hill was unranked, so this is probably going to skyrocket him into like the 15th position now. He'll have a number beside his name by Wednesday at least, so I'm excited for that. The guy's like 8-0 now. He's still young in this game, so I'm excited to see how well he does in the UFC. If he beats somebody like Ovince St. Preux, he can definitely stand with the light heavyweight division. Just, it's going to be exciting to see how well he can stand with the light heavyweight division, right? Anyway, that brings us into the main event. This fight won Fight of the Night, and there's a good reason for it. It was number 4 Jack Hermansson versus Marvin Vettori in a 5-round main event, and Marvin Vettori was a short notice opponent. So everybody thought that Jack Hermansson was going to win, even though Marvin Vettori was a slight favorite, I believe. But a lot of people thought Jack Hermansson had this in the bag. It was going to be a submission win from him. And as soon as the fight started, it was very obvious that that's not what it was. That's not what it was going to be. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see that because Jack Hermansson tried his takedowns immediately, and Marvin Vettori would scramble and end up on top and was doing very good with his takedown defense. He was even taking Jack Hermansson down by at will, but it was mostly a stand-up affair between the two. Both guys going back and forth, throwing each other punches. But the thing was, the first round, Marvin Vettori was getting the better of the striking exchanges. He was throwing the more meaningful strikes. Even though both guys were controlling the octagon a little more equally, it was clear that it was Marvin Vettori's round because he was getting the more meaningful strikes in the striking exchanges. Plus, like I said, he took Jack Hermansson down at least like once or twice at will and held him there. And when he almost got taken down by Jack Hermansson, he scrambled very well and stopped that from happening. Marvin Vettori showed how all around he was tonight. Obviously, the biggest storyline going into this fight was that Marvin Vettori only had a chance because he was one of the few guys to take Israel Adesanya to a decision, and his fight went to a split decision. Honestly, though, I watched the fight back. Marvin Vettori got like handily beat. It should have been a clear 29-28 all around the boards for Adesanya. But anyway, that's besides the point. He really showed how all around he was this fight. He was doing a great job on the back foot, hitting Jack Hermansson with counter shots. Good job pushing Jack Hermansson against the cage and hitting Jack Hermansson with some good shots. He actually dropped Jack Hermansson at the end of the first round, but Jack Hermansson, luckily, he rallied back and got back up and survived the round and ended up finishing the round strong, but clearly it was a Marvin Vettori round. Second round, same thing. Marvin Vettori came out, kept his distance, let Jack Hermansson try to initiate the strikes, and he would always counter and hit with more shots than Jack Hermansson could hit. And then after that, when he clearly kind of pushed Jack Hermansson back, he'd start pushing the pace as he did. And he did a great job at doing this. He did this all second round, his round easily 10-9 again. So it was I believe, what is it? Fucking 2019 going into or 2018 going into the third. And the third round was different. I don't know what was going on, but it looked like Jack Hermansson was starting to kind of get into his groove. He was starting to kind of get better. Marvin Vettori was getting a little bit tired, it seemed, and Jack Hermansson started getting more striking and started getting the more of the striking exchanges and started controlling the round a bit more, and it ended up being Jack Hermansson's round. Despite it being a close round between the two, Jack Hermansson ended up winning that round handily just from taking him down and controlling Marvin Vettori on the ground and just getting the better of the striking exchanges, just outstriking Marvin Vettori, surprisingly. But like as soon as they went back to their corners, it was like a fire lit from under Marvin Vettori's ass because Rafael Cordero was like, "Don't let that happen again. You lost that round. You're up 2, but you lost that round. Don't let it happen again." And he came out with a fire under his ass, and just both guys were giving each other hell, but Marvin Vettori just went back to getting the better of the striking exchanges and was just constantly backing Jack Hermansson up and forcing Jack Hermansson to counter and try to go for takedowns, where Marvin Vettori was doing, like I said, incredible job just holding him there and getting back up to his feet. You know, he wasn't scared to be on the ground with Jack Hermansson either, which was surprising too. So the fourth round ended up going Marvin Vettori's way, and then going into the final round, it was probably the most hyped that I have ever been for a round in a while. Cordero's just sitting there talking to Vettori, saying, "You got 5 minutes. You're up 3 rounds. You've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and you're gonna be the first Italian UFC fighter to be in the top 5 of a division. You've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes and you win. You're gonna do this." And he comes out with this fucking hype. He just starts swinging, just bringing his fire, his A game, just throwing hands. Obviously, Jack Hermansson trying to stay in the fight too. Both guys just giving each other hell. It was a back and forth affair the whole time. It was like one guy would throw a combo and then another guy would throw a combo. And it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was just such an incredible fight. Both guys went to war. If you decided to miss last night's main event because both the names in the main event didn't look good enough for you, then you are an idiot, because this was a great fight. Not a fight of the year contender, but easy Y1 fight of the night. It was a constant back and forth fight. Could be fight of the month in my opinion, but it was great. It was honestly a great fight. Great showcase by both guys. You can't even discount Jack Hermansson for losing to Marvin Vettori because he was in that the whole way. Showed he had a chin of granite. Both guys showed they had hearts that just would not quit, and it showed that Marvin Vettori is no fucking slouch. He is a great all-around fighter. There's a reason why he took Adesanya to a split. Like I said, personally, I think he didn't win that split. I think it was more of a unanimous for Adesanya. I don't think it was a split, but he got close enough where he almost beat Adesanya. He was the closest to beat Adesanya, right? So, kind of showed tonight. He showed why he's an all-around good fighter, and he gave Adesanya a bit of trouble in that fight. So, honestly, good showcase by both guys. The decision scorecards ended up reading out 49-46 unanimous for Marvin Vettori. So, by Wednesday, Marvin Vettori is going to see either a 4 or a 5 by his name. We'll see what happens to Jack Hermansson, but obviously, don't discount Jack Hermansson. He was on a complete run before this. So it's just, he had to switch opponents like 3 times in a couple weeks, so it could have been difficult trying to prepare for Marvin Vettori, but good on Marvin Vettori for preparing for Jack Hermansson. He did a great job, played a perfect game plan. Both guys brought their A game. It was just a great fight all around. So anyway, that's it for the main card. I cannot wait, though, for what is going to be coming up next, because we have next week's card, and I'm just going to read off all the fights to you guys here. So, in the prelims, we've got my favorite millennial, Chase Hooper, going up against Peter Barrett in the featherweight division. And then Li Jingliang, who is a incredible Chinese welterweight prospect, going up against Dwight Grant. And then Carl Robertson going up against Dalcha Lungaimbula, I think is his name. And then we've got Sergey Spivak coming back in the heavyweight division against Jared Vandera. And then to headline the early preliminary card. This is the early preliminary card, guys. This is just ESPN Plus and Fight Pass. We have 5 fights on UFC Fight Pass. UFC Fight Pass. We usually don't get 5 fights on the early prelim card. We usually get like 2 fights on the early prelim card, and then the rest are the regular prelim card. But to level off the whole prelim card, the early prelim card headliner is Gavin Tucker and Billy Quarantillo. So both of these guys, holy shit, these guys are going to probably put on a fight of fireworks. I'm excited for that. And if that wasn't enough to open up the actual preliminary card, we have a complete firefight between Tisha Torres and Angela Hill. Angela Hill is known for bringing the fire. She's like the master of elbows, the master of TKOs. Tisha Torres is all heart, and she's so small, so like she just loves to close the pocket. She's a great striker, great wrestler. And then next on that is Mackenzie Dern versus Virner Jandy Roba. Jandy Roba was that really weird-looking woman with the curly hair a while back that just completely, I believe, I forget who it was, but completely dominated her last opponent. And yeah, it was a great show up by her. So this is a great fight for Mackenzie Dern, great test for her, and great chance for Virna to just kind of get into the eyes of all the MMA fans out there, because she kind of got into the eyes of the MMA fans when she won in her last outing. But this would be the perfect chance. A win over Mackenzie Dern would be a great chance to kind of get her name into the limelight. To end off the prelim card, we've got Cub Swanson up against Daniel Pineda. That is a guaranteed banger, because Cub Swanson, he loves to just throw hands. He loves violence. And that is why we love Cub Swanson, folks, because every fight he's in, he brings it. He's like the Dustin Poirier of the featherweight division, except he's not draining himself to make that weight like Dustin Poirier was. So I'm excited to see that fight. Daniel Pineda is a great fight too. He's not afraid to stand and bang. He's got incredible heavy hands too. And the featherweights always bring that shit. So that's just a guaranteed banger. That's just the prelims, though. That doesn't even bring me to the main card. The main card starts off with a heavyweight banger between Junior Dos Santos and Cyril Ghani. And that's going to be incredible because Junior Dos Santos is known for his knockout power. He's an incredible boxer. Cyril Ghani is a kickboxer. So no takedowns here, folks. Probably just going to be straight striking with these two. I guarantee someone is probably going to go to sleep. That being said, Kevin Holland, after testing positive or whatever for COVID-19, and he got cleared, he didn't get to fight this weekend, but he gets to fight next weekend on the main card against another middleweight standout in Jacare Ronaldo Souza. Jacare is a veteran in the game. He is an incredible ground artist, very dangerous on the ground. So this is going to be a great test for Kevin Holland because Kevin Holland's very good on the feet. He's pretty decent on the ground, and I feel like Jacare is a big test for someone like him. So that's going to be pretty cool to see. It's going to be a great fight for that card. But after that is Renato Moicano making his lightweight debut against Rafael Fiziev, who fought a while ago and won the hearts of many. I believe, I can't remember who he fought, but it was a bigger name in the lightweight division. And he just completely dominated them and upset everyone's parlay. And everyone was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's finally making a return against Renato Moicano. That's a big step up for Renato Moicano, but also a big step up for Fiziev because Renato Moicano's not a slouch. He was a top contender up at featherweight. He was knocking people out. He is an incredible fighter, and that is definitely going to be a hard fight for Rafael Fiziev. Going to be a great fight for both guys. I can't wait for that. I can't wait to see that. That being said, the co-main event is probably, the main event alone is great. It's a championship fight I'm waiting for and is going to be guaranteed fireworks. But the co-main event is the thing that I'm probably the most excited for. Tony Ferguson returning after his decimation via Justin Gaethje against Charles Oliveira, who has just gone on this incredible tear of submissions and knockouts where he has just changed into this completely dynamic and exciting fighter in this incredibly bloodthirsty finisher. And it's a perfect fight for Tony Ferguson. It's a perfect fight for them, for each other. They're both a challenge for each other. It's a challenge to see if Tony Ferguson still has it or if Justin took his soul. And this shows if Charles Oliveira is the real deal and deserves to be in the top 5 of the lightweights, because this is an incredible fight. Both guys have incredible skill. They're both veterans of this game, of this promotion. Tony Ferguson, everybody knows Tony Ferguson. He was on that 12-fight tear before he got beat by Justin Gaethje. I know I'm hurting a lot of Tony fans by bringing that up, but Charles Oliveira, same thing. He was on a complete tear in the lightweight division until he was stopped by Paul Felder, and then after that, he just went back on a complete tear, and he's continuing on that tear. So I'm excited for this fight. This could have been the main event, and I wouldn't have been upset. I would have paid for the pay-per-view. But that being said, we have a title fight for the main event, and that is Davidson Figuero versus Brandon Moreno for the flyweight title. And this is the fastest turnaround for a title challenger and a title holder to accept a fight and fight. It was a 21-day turnaround. They fought at UFC 255, not each other, but they fought separate people at UFC 255. Figueroa beat Alex Perez. Brandon Moreno beating Brandon Royval. And that night, the fight was announced. And then the next day, the pen was put to paper. 21 days after their first fight at 255, they're fighting on a pay-per-view again for the flyweight title. And both guys are eccentric finishers. They both go for the finish. And as I've always said, I love the flyweights because of how fast-paced they are. It's never a dull moment with these guys. Figueroa's a complete finisher from the ground and on the feet. Brandon Moreno's got heavy hands, and he's been showing that he's just been improving more and more in this division. He's just a complete threat. I think that this might be a great challenge for Davidson Figueroa, but it's definitely not going to be a piece of cake for Brandon Moreno. It's just going to be guaranteed fireworks. This is probably the sleeper card that they're putting on. Everybody thinks that the Conor McGregor card is going to be incredible, or that the best card of the year was the Izzy card or the Khabib card. But the way that these fights are looking is turning out to be the greatest card of the year. I may be alone in saying that, but I think this may very well be, if all the fights stay intact, like, knock on wood, they do. If all the fights stay intact, this could very well be shaping up to be the best card of the year. And 2020 has been a wacky ass year to begin with, but this could end up being the best card of the year. And this could fucking just shoot either Figueroa or Brandon Moreno into the stardom spot. So this is an incredible card. Do not miss it this week coming. That's December 12th, Saturday. Don't miss it. Check that shit out on ESPN Plus, or anywhere else that you can get the pay-per-view on your network provider, or me. I usually watch that shit on UFC Fight Pass. So check out the pay-per-view. Go check out the preliminary card too. Like I said, not a single fight you should miss. If you are even remotely a fight fan, you should be checking out the early prelims and the regular prelims all the way to the main event. This card is stacked from top to bottom. Not a lot of names casuals would know, but if you're even slightly a hardcore fan, then this card from absolute top to bottom looks like a complete banger. Anyway, that's enough for the UFC 256 card. I'm excited for it. I cannot wait for this week coming. I also can't wait for Wednesday because I have that big interview for you guys. And honestly, I was so excited all week setting this up. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to that. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights last night. I know I did. After I watched the prelims this morning, it was awesome. I realized how great the card actually was. Because, like I said, I missed the prelims, but I was up at 10 for the main card, so I was able to catch that, but I wasn't able to hit the prelims. But anyway, I was so glad I got to catch this card. I hope everyone enjoyed their weekends. I hope everyone enjoyed the fights, and I will see you guys on Wednesday, and after that, next Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed UFC 256 because I cannot wait. Peace out, guys.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.